The thing about being married to someone for 8 years is that you start to notice when their lies get lazy. Nina used to craft elaborate stories about her late nights at the agency, client emergencies, creative breakthroughs, mandatory team dinners. Now she just mumbled something about Amsterdam stuff and expected me to nod like the good little house husband I'd apparently become. I'm Owen Driscoll, by the way, 42, former investigative journalist, current advertising copywriter, and apparently the world's most gullible spouse. At least that's what I thought until last Tuesday night when Nina's phone lit up on our kitchen counter with a text in Dutch. Ik kan niet wachten om je vanavond te zien, schatje. Now, I don't speak Dutch, but I know what schatje means. My wife had been taking Dutch lessons for 6 months, supposedly for work. Her agency was collaborating with some hotshot creative director from Amsterdam named Eric Vandenberg. Nina claimed learning the language would help with the international project. What she didn't know was that I'd been learning Dutch too, secretly. On Duolingo during my lunch breaks, because I wanted to surprise her. Maybe plan a romantic trip to Amsterdam for our anniversary. The text translated to, I can't wait to see you tonight, darling. It was 11:47 p.m. Nina was supposedly asleep upstairs. I stared at that phone for 20 minutes, watching more messages roll in. Photos of hotel rooms, dinner reservations, flight confirmations. All in Dutch, all intimate, all with someone who definitely wasn't her husband. The rational part of my brain, the part that had spent 15 years fact-checking stories for the Portland Tribune before the newspaper industry imploded, told me to confront her immediately. The bitter, sarcastic part that had been growing stronger with each year of our marriage told me to do something smarter. I took screenshots of everything. Nina came downstairs at 6:30 a.m., already dressed for work in that sharp black suit that made her look like she could fire someone just by glancing at them. She was beautiful. I'd never denied that. With auburn hair that caught the morning light and green eyes that used to look at me like I mattered. Coffee's ready, I said, not looking up from my laptop. Thanks. I'll grab some at the office. She kissed the top of my head, a gesture so automatic it felt like being blessed by a parking meter. Don't wait up tonight. We're having dinner with the Amsterdam team. Eric Vandenberg's team? She paused just for a second. Among others, it's a big presentation. Sounds important. Where are you meeting? The Eastland Park. Their restaurant has a private dining room. I nodded, typing random words into my document. Have fun. After she left, I called the Eastland Park Hotel. They didn't have any private dining reservations under Nina's name, her agency's name, or any variation of Amsterdam-related businesses. But they did have a room reservation under Eric Vandenberg for 2 guests, checking in tonight. I sat in our kitchen, with the subway tile backsplash Nina had insisted on, and the expensive coffee machine she never used, and felt something cold settle in my chest. Not heartbreak. That would come later. This was something sharper, more focused. This was the feeling I used to get when I found the loose thread that would unravel an entire story. I called my old friend Benny, who owned Murphy's Pub downtown. We'd known each other since college, and he was the only person I trusted to tell me if I was losing my mind. She's cheating, he said after I explained the situation. Sorry, man, but it's obvious. I know. The question is what I do about it. Confront her, get a lawyer, take half of everything, and move on. Half of what? We rent the loft. Our biggest asset is her job, and I can't exactly take half of that. Benny was quiet for a moment. So, what are you thinking? I stared out the window at the gray Portland morning, watching people hurry to jobs they probably hated, marriages they'd probably outgrown, lives they'd probably settled for. I'm thinking I want to meet Eric Vandenberg. The Eastland Park Hotel sits in the heart of Portland's arts district, all brick and brass and old money pretension. I arrived at 5:30 p.m. and positioned myself in the lobby bar with a clear view of the elevators and entrance. I didn't have to wait long. Nina walked in at 6:15, but she wasn't alone. Eric Vandenberg looked exactly like his LinkedIn photo. Tall, blonde, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my monthly salary. Mid-30s with the kind of casual confidence that comes from never having to worry about mortgage payments or whether your industry would exist in 5 years. They didn't see me. Nina was laughing at something he'd said, her hand resting on his arm in a way that made my teeth clench. They headed straight for the elevators. I waited 10 minutes, then approached the front desk. "Excuse me, I'm supposed to meet Eric Vandenberg for dinner, but I think I missed him. Could you ring his room?" The desk clerk, a young woman with kind eyes, looked apologetic. "I'm sorry, sir, but Mr. Vandenberg left specific instructions not to be disturbed this evening. He said he had an important business dinner." "Of course he did. Thanks anyway." I went back to the bar and ordered another whiskey. The bartender, an older guy with tattooed forearms, slid it across with a knowing look. "Rough day? Getting rougher. Want to talk about it?" I almost laughed. "My wife is upstairs screwing her Dutch business partner, and I'm sitting here drinking overpriced whiskey instead of storming up there and making a scene." The bartender nodded like this was the most normal conversation in the world. "Why aren't you making a scene?" "Because I'm not that guy anymore. I used to be a journalist. I learned that the best stories come from patience, from gathering all the facts before you publish." "And what story are you gathering facts for now?" I took a long sip of whiskey, feeling it burn away the last of my naive hope. "The one where the underdog wins for once." I stayed until 11:30. Nina and Eric never came back down to the restaurant. When I finally left, I saw Nina's car in the hotel parking garage, tucked away in a corner spot like she was trying to hide it. I took a photo of the license plate, the location, and the timestamp. Then I went home to our empty loft and started planning. The next morning, Nina came home at 7 a.m., claiming she'd stayed at her friend Madison's place after drinking too much wine at the business dinner. "How was the presentation?" I asked, not looking up from my coffee. "Good. Really good. Eric thinks we have a strong chance of landing the Amsterdam expansion project." "That's great, honey. When do you think you'll know for sure?" "A few weeks, maybe sooner." She was already heading for the shower. "I might need to travel more in the coming months, to solidify the relationship." "Of course, whatever it takes." After she left for work, I drove to Murphy's Pub. Benny was prepping for the lunch crowd, slicing lemons and wiping down bar glasses. "You look like hell," he said. "I feel worse. I need a favor." "Name it." "I need to borrow your car tonight, and I need you to not ask questions about why." Benny studied my face for a long moment. "This about Nina?" "This is about me finally growing a backbone." He tossed me his keys. Honda Civic, blue, parked out back. "Try not to get arrested." That evening, I followed Nina from our loft to a different hotel, the AC Hotel downtown. This time, Eric was already waiting in the lobby. They embraced like lovers, not business partners, and headed straight for the bar. I parked across the street and watched through the restaurant windows as they shared dinner, wine, and the kind of intimate conversation that involved a lot of touching and laughing. Nina looked happier than I'd seen her in months. When they finished dinner and headed for the elevators, I finally understood that this wasn't just an affair. This was a full relationship. Nina had checked out of our marriage completely and was living a double life. I drove home and opened my laptop. If Nina wanted to play games, I'd show her what happened when she played them with someone who used to make a living exposing liars. The Portland advertising scene is smaller than most people realize. Everyone knows everyone, and gossip travels faster than wildfire in August. Nina worked at Meridian Creative, one of the city's top agencies, and I'd met most of her colleagues at various company parties over the years, including Tessa Chen, the agency's receptionist, who'd always been friendly to me and had a reputation for knowing everything that happened in the office. I called her Thursday morning. "Owen, how are you? I haven't seen you at any of the company events lately." "I've been busy with freelance work." "Listen, Tessa, I'm planning a surprise for Nina, something related to her Amsterdam project. Could you help me with some details about her schedule?" "Oh, that's so sweet. She's been working so hard on that project." "What kind of surprise?" "I want to plan a romantic dinner for when she gets back from her next business trip, but I need to know exactly when she'll be back so I can coordinate with the restaurant." "Let me check her calendar." I heard typing in the background. "That's weird. I don't see any upcoming trips to Amsterdam on her schedule." "Are you sure she's traveling?" My grip tightened on the phone. "Maybe it's not official yet. What about meetings with Eric Vandenberg?" "Oh, Eric. He's gorgeous, isn't he?" "Very charming. But he's not scheduled for any meetings this week either." Actually, I think his official project meetings are mostly with the senior partners, not Nina's team. I felt that familiar cold sensation in my chest. Interesting. Well, maybe I misunderstood. Thanks anyway, Tessa. Wait, Owen, is everything okay? You sound, I don't know, stressed. I made a decision. Can I ask you something and can you promise to keep it between us? Of course. Have you noticed Nina and Eric spending a lot of time together? Outside of official meetings? There was a long pause. Owen, I really shouldn't. Please, I need to know. They've been having lunch together a lot, and last week I saw them leaving together around 5 p.m. But Nina told me to tell anyone who called that she was in meetings until 8. I thought it was just work stuff, but what? They looked very comfortable together, like they'd done it before. I thanked Tessa and hung up, my hands shaking slightly. Not from heartbreak. I was past that now. From rage. Nina wasn't just cheating. She was using me as cover, lying to everyone and making me complicit in her deception. Every time someone asked where she was, I'd been unknowingly providing her alibi. That afternoon, I called Madison Pierce, Nina's best friend since college. Madison was an Instagram influencer with 50,000 followers and a lifestyle brand built around being authentic and inspirational. She was also one of the most gossipy people I'd ever met. Owen, what a surprise. Is Nina okay? She seemed stressed the last time we talked. That's actually why I'm calling. I'm worried about her. She's been working late a lot, and I think the pressure from this Amsterdam project is getting to her. Oh, the Eric situation? Yeah, that's complicated. My heart stopped. What do you mean, complicated? Well, you know how Nina gets when she's attracted to someone. She overthinks everything. And Eric is exactly her type. Successful, European, sophisticated. Plus, he's married, which always makes Nina want someone more. I felt like I'd been punched. Madison, what exactly are you saying? Oh, God, you don't know, do you? Her voice changed completely. Oh, and I mean, I assumed you and Nina had talked about this. Talked about what? She's been seeing Eric for 3 months. She said you two were having problems and that you'd basically given her permission to explore other relationships. She said it was like an open marriage thing. The phone felt heavy in my hand. We've never discussed an open marriage. Oh, shit. Oh, shit, Owen, I'm so sorry. I never would have. I mean, Nina told me you were okay with it. She said you were focusing on your writing and that you both agreed the marriage had run its course, but that you were staying together for financial reasons. Financial reasons. She said you couldn't afford to live separately right now, so you were just roommates until you figured things out. Owen, I swear I thought you knew. After I hung up, I sat in my car outside a coffee shop and stared at nothing. Nina hadn't just cheated on me. She'd rewritten our entire relationship to justify her affair, and she'd convinced our mutual friends that I was okay with it. How many people knew? How many people had been looking at me with pity at parties, thinking I was some pathetic cuckold who'd agreed to let his wife sleep around? I started the car and drove to Murphy's pub. Benny took one look at my face and poured a double whiskey without being asked. What happened? I told him everything. Madison's call, Tessa's observations, the hotels, the lies, the complete fabrication of our marriage status. Jesus Christ, Benny said when I finished. She's been making you look like a fool for months. Not just me, she's been lying to everyone, making them complicit. So, what are you going to do? I drained the whiskey and looked at my reflection in the bar mirror. I looked older than I had 6 months ago. Tired, defeated, but there was something else in my eyes now. Something that hadn't been there before. I'm going to remind everyone why they used to be afraid of journalists. Friday night, Nina announced she was going out with Madison and some other friends. Girls' night, she said. Needed to blow off steam from work. I waited an hour after she left, then drove to the AC hotel. Eric's rental car, a silver BMW with Dutch plates, was in the parking garage. I took the elevator to the lobby and positioned myself where I could see both the bar and the elevators. They appeared at 9:30 p.m. Nina in a black dress I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. They were holding hands. I watched them have dinner, Watched Eric feed her bites of dessert. Watched my wife of 8 years act like a teenager in love. When they finally headed for the elevators, I was ready. I followed them up, staying back far enough to avoid detection. They got off on the 8th floor. I waited until I heard a door close, then walked down the hallway until I found the room with voices inside. Room 847. I went back to the lobby and called the hotel. AC Hotel, how can I help you? Hi, I'm trying to reach my colleague Eric Vandenberg. He's staying in room 847, but he's not answering his cell phone. Could you connect me? I'm sorry, sir, but we don't have anyone registered under that name. That's strange. Could you check under Vandenberg? Or maybe it's under his company name? Sir, I can't give out guest information, but I can tell you that room 847 is registered under a different name entirely. Could you tell me what name? I'm sorry, I can't provide that information. I hung up and thought for a moment. Then I called back. Hi, this is Eric Vandenberg in room 847. I'm expecting a package delivery tomorrow, but I realized I might have given the wrong name when I registered. Could you confirm what name the room is under? Let me check. The room is registered under Nina Driscoll. My wife was paying for their hotel room. I sat in the lobby until 2 a.m., but they never came down. Nina was spending the night on her own credit card in a hotel room she'd booked for her affair. Saturday morning, I was waiting in our kitchen when Nina came home at 8 a.m. How was girls' night? I asked. Fun. We went to that new cocktail place on Exchange Street, then back to Madison's. I crashed on her couch. That's nice. Madison has a comfortable couch. Yeah, she does. Nina was already heading for the shower, not making eye contact. Nina? She stopped. Yeah. I called Madison at 10 p.m. last night. She said you'd canceled girls' night because you weren't feeling well. For the first time in months, I saw real fear in my wife's eyes. What? No, that's not. Madison must have been confused. She was very clear. She said you texted her around 7 p.m. saying you had a headache and needed to stay home. Nina's face went through several expressions before settling on defensive anger. Why were you calling Madison? Are you checking up on me now? I was calling to ask if she knew what kind of flowers you liked, because I wanted to surprise you. But instead, I found out that my wife is a liar. Owen, you're being paranoid. Room 847 at the AC Hotel, registered under your name, your credit card. The color drained from Nina's face. I know about Eric. I know about the 3 months of hotels and fake business trips and lies. I know you told Madison that we have an open marriage and that I'm okay with you sleeping around. Nina sat down heavily at our kitchen table. For a moment, she looked like she might cry. Then her expression hardened. How long have you known? Long enough? And what do you want? An apology? A promise to stop? I stared at her. Do you want to stop? She was quiet for a long time. No. Do you want to stay married? I don't know. Do you love him? Yes. The word hit me like a physical blow, but I kept my voice steady. Then why are you still here? Because it's complicated, Owen. Eric is married. He has kids. This isn't some fairy tale where we run away together. So I'm your safety net. You're my husband. Not anymore. I stood up and walked to our bedroom, Nina following behind me. What are you doing? I pulled a suitcase from the closet and started packing. I'm leaving. Owen, wait. We can work this out. We can go to counseling. You just told me you love another man and don't want to stop sleeping with him. What exactly would we work out in counseling? I don't want to get divorced. I stopped packing and looked at her. Really looked at her. She was still beautiful. Still the woman I'd fallen in love with 9 years ago. But there was something cold in her eyes now. Something calculating. You don't want to get divorced because it would complicate your relationship with Eric. If you're single, he might feel pressured to leave his wife. If you're married, you're both just having fun. That's exactly it. You want to keep me around as insurance in case your affair doesn't work out. Nina's silence was all the confirmation I needed. I finished packing and headed for the door. Where are you going? Somewhere that isn't here. Owen, please, don't do anything stupid. I stopped with my hand on the doorknob. Stupid? Like trusting my wife? Like believing her lies for 3 months? like letting her make me look like a fool in front of our friends. I never meant for it to happen this way. But you're not sorry it did. She didn't answer. I walked out of our loft and drove straight to Murphy's pub. Benny took one look at my suitcase and poured 2 whiskeys. So you confronted her. I confronted her. How'd it go? She loves him. Doesn't want to stop seeing him. Doesn't want to get divorced either. Jesus! She wants to keep me as a backup plan while she plays house with her Dutch boyfriend. Benny shook his head. What are you going to do? I looked around the pub, at the regulars nursing their afternoon beers, at the dartboard Eric would never play, at the life Nina would never be part of because it wasn't sophisticated enough for her. I'm going to show her what happens when you underestimate a journalist. I spent Sunday in Benny's spare room above the pub, planning. Nina called 17 times. I didn't answer. Monday morning, I started making calls. First, I called Meridian Creative and asked to speak with the managing partner, Robert Hayes. I'd met him at several company parties, and he'd always been friendly. Owen, good to hear from you. How's the freelance world treating you? Can't complain. Listen, Robert, I'm working on a story about international business partnerships and how they're structured. I was hoping to use Nina's Amsterdam project as a case study, if that's okay with you. Of course. That project has been a real success story. Eric Vandenberg has been instrumental in helping us expand our European connections. That's great. Can you tell me more about the official partnership structure? How often does your team travel to Amsterdam for meetings? Well, actually, most of the meetings happen here. Eric has been in Portland for about 4 months now, working directly with our teams. 4 months? Nina mentioned he was only here for short visits. Oh no, he's been here full-time since January. We put him up in corporate housing downtown. Didn't Nina tell you? My grip tightened on the phone. Eric had been living in Portland for 4 months, not just visiting for business trips. She must have mentioned it. You know how it is. I don't always pay attention to work details. Robert laughed. I understand. Well, if you need any official information for your article, feel free to call. After I hung up, I called the AC Hotel. Hi, I'm calling about a long-term guest, Eric Vandenberg. I'm his accountant, and I need to verify some expense information for his tax preparation. I'm sorry, sir, but I can't provide guest information. I understand. Let me ask this differently. If someone has been staying at your hotel for several months, would those charges appear as individual nightly rates or as a monthly corporate rate? For extended stays over 30 days, we typically offer monthly rates, yes. And would those rates include amenities like room service and bar charges? Extended stay rates are room only. Additional charges would be separate. Thank you. I hung up and called my old editor at the Tribune, Sarah Mitchell. She'd moved to a digital media company that specialized in investigative pieces. Owen Driscoll. I was wondering when you'd call. Are you ready to come back to real journalism? Maybe. I have a story that might interest you. Corporate expense fraud, international business partnerships, and some very creative accounting. I'm listening. What if I told you that a major Portland advertising agency has been paying for an international consultant's personal expenses, including hotel rooms that aren't being used for business purposes? I'd say that sounds like a story worth investigating. Do you have documentation? I'm working on it. How soon can you get me a draft? Give me a week. After I hung up, I drove to the AC Hotel and asked to speak with the manager. I'm a journalist working on a story about corporate expense fraud, I told him, showing my old Tribune ID. I have reason to believe that one of your long-term guests may be using company funds inappropriately. I'm not asking for confidential information, but I would like to know if you've noticed any unusual patterns in room usage or billing. The manager, a serious man in his 50s, looked uncomfortable. What kind of patterns? Rooms being paid for by one company but used by people who don't appear to be conducting business. Multiple guests in rooms registered to single occupants. That sort of thing. I'm not sure I can help you. I'm not asking you to violate anyone's privacy. But if you've noticed anything that seemed inappropriate, it might be worth documenting before it becomes a bigger problem. He thought for a moment. There is one situation that's been concerning. We have a corporate guest whose room is paid for by a local company, but he frequently has overnight guests who aren't registered with us. It's against our policy, but the account is always current, so we haven't said anything. Would you be willing to go on record about that policy violation? If it's for a legitimate news story, yes. I spent the rest of the week gathering information. I called other hotels and found that Eric had stayed at 3 different places since arriving in Portland, always with Nina joining him, always on different corporate accounts. I contacted Eric's company in Amsterdam and, posing as a vendor, confirmed that he was supposed to be working exclusively on the Meridian Creative project, not entertaining clients or conducting other business. I reached out to 3 other employees at Meridian Creative, all of whom confirmed that Eric's official meetings were limited, and that most of his time seemed to be spent on relationship building activities that weren't clearly defined. By Friday, I had enough documentation to write a comprehensive article about corporate expense fraud, misuse of company resources, and the blurry line between business relationships and personal ones. But I wasn't ready to publish yet. I wanted Nina to know what was coming. Friday evening, I called her. "Oh, and thank God, I've been so worried. Where are you staying?" "That's not important. We need to talk." "Yes, we do. I've been thinking about everything you said, and you're right. I've been selfish and dishonest, and I want to work things out." "It's too late for that." "It's not too late. I ended things with Eric. I told him I want to focus on my marriage." I almost laughed. "When did you tell him that?" "Yesterday, I swear, Owen, I chose you." "That's interesting because Eric checked into the Hilton Garden Inn last night, room 412, and according to their room service records, he ordered dinner for 2. Silence. "You're having me followed?" "I'm investigating a story about corporate expense fraud. You and Eric just happen to be part of it." "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about 4 months of hotel bills paid for by Meridian Creative for rooms that weren't used for business purposes. I'm talking about company credit cards being used for personal entertainment. I'm talking about a very detailed article that's going to be published next week about how Portland businesses are being defrauded by employees who think they're smarter than everyone else. You can't do that. You'll destroy my career." "You destroyed my marriage." "Owen, please. We can work this out privately. There's no need to involve anyone else." "There's every need. You made this public when you lied to our friends about our relationship. You made this public when you used company resources for your affair. You made this public when you decided I was too stupid to figure out what you were doing." "I never said you were stupid." "You didn't have to. Your actions said it for you." I hung up and turned off my phone. Saturday morning, I sent my article to Sarah Mitchell. By Sunday afternoon, it was online with the headline, "Portland Ad Agency Unknowingly Funds Employees' Extramarital Affair." The article didn't name Nina or Eric specifically, but anyone who worked at Meridian Creative would recognize the details immediately. Monday morning, my phone had 47 missed calls. I answered one of them. "Owen, you bastard, you've ruined everything." Nina's voice was shaking with rage. "Have I? Robert fired me. They fired Eric too, and they're considering legal action for the expense fraud. His wife found out about the affair because his company called her looking for him. My career is over." "That's unfortunate." "Unfortunate? You destroyed my life." "No, Nina. You destroyed your life. I just documented it. You're going to pay for this. I'll sue you for defamation, for invasion of privacy. Good luck with that. Everything in the article is factually accurate and based on public records and willing sources. I never mentioned your names, and I never made any claims that weren't supported by evidence. Everyone knows it's about us. Then maybe you shouldn't have been so obvious about your fraud." "It wasn't fraud. It was just creative accounting. Tell that to your former employer." I hung up and walked downstairs to Murphy's Pub. Benny was setting up for the lunch crowd. "So?" he asked. "So Nina and Eric are both unemployed. His wife is filing for divorce, and Meridian Creative is reviewing all of their international partnerships for similar irregularities." Damn, you don't mess around. I spent 15 years learning how to research stories and verify facts. Did they really think I wouldn't figure out how to use those skills? What happens now? I looked out the window at the gray Portland morning at the people hurrying to their jobs and their lives and their problems. Now I figure out what comes next. 3 weeks later, Nina called one last time. "I'm leaving Portland," she said. Her voice was different, smaller, defeated. "Where are you going?" "My parents' place in Seattle. I need to figure out what to do next." "What about Eric?" "He went back to Amsterdam. His wife is taking half of everything in the divorce, and no agency here will hire him after your article." "I'm sorry it worked out that way." "No, you're not." She was right. I wasn't sorry. "Owen, I need you to know that I never meant for things to happen the way they did. But you're not sorry they did." "I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry I lied. But I'm not sorry I fell in love with someone else." "I know." "Do you hate me?" I thought about it. Did I hate her? The woman who'd shared my bed for 8 years, who'd laughed at my jokes and held my hand through my father's funeral, and promised to love me forever. "No," I said finally. "I don't hate you, but I don't forgive you either." "What does that mean?" "It means I understand why you did what you did, but understanding isn't the same as excusing. You made choices, Nina. You chose to lie instead of being honest. You chose to cheat instead of ending our marriage. You chose to make me complicit in your deception instead of giving me the chance to make my own decisions. I was trying to protect you. You were trying to protect yourself. There's a difference." She was quiet for a long time. "Will you sign the divorce papers?" "Already signed them. My lawyer will send them to yours tomorrow." "Thank you." "Nina?" "Yeah? For what it's worth, I hope you find what you're looking for. What if I already had it and just didn't realize it? Then you should have fought harder to keep it." After I hung up, I walked to the window of my new apartment. A small place near the waterfront, nothing fancy, but it was mine. I could see the harbor from my kitchen table, could watch the boats coming and going, carrying people to places they'd never been before. My phone rang. Sarah Mitchell. "Owen, I have good news. The Portland piece has gotten a lot of attention. I've got 3 different publications interested in hiring you for investigative work." "What kind of work?" "Corporate fraud, mostly. Turns out there's a real appetite for stories about businesses behaving badly. You interested?" I looked out at the harbor, at the gray water and the cloudy sky, and